Yeah, the 1920s, it wasn't too cool. Let me tell you now, you couldn't act a fool. There was no alcohol in our nation. Let me tell you that. That was an incarceration. If you got it caught, you be in trouble. Let me tell you now, that sentence will be double. Hey, here we go. Great Gatsby was in the 1920s, that's true. But let me tell you now, that book ain't true.
What do you know about the 1920s?
It was a swinging good time.
All right, what would you get arrested for if you were in the 1920s?
Having alcohol.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Go Rockets.
Okay, so Mr. Weishan, what do you know about the 1920s?
1920s was the post-Great Depression era. You started to see the rise of jazz music, other forms of that early industry as well. Sort of a dark period in our country's history, but one in which we were slightly recovering from, of course, the Great Depression, World War I, and some other tensions at the time as well.
Okay. Question number 2. If you were living in the 1920s, what would you want to be doing?
If I were in the 1920s, as a person who loves jazz music, I'd love to be a jazz artist. You know, play the saxophone, play the piano, you name it. I'd love to be a jazz artist.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank
Hi,
you.
Sienna.
Hey, Maddie.
So, if you were living in the 1920s, what would you be doing?
Probably standing up for like women's rights and stuff. We love an activist. Okay.
What do you know about the 1920s?
Well, it was a very busy time. I mean, that's when life really began to speed up, if you will, because that's when the stock market and the economy was really growing, very quickly. Of course, it's when you have like new technology that really cuts through, space, if you know what I mean. Like the world became significantly smaller because that's when you, of course, have like radio. That's when we have like a national pop culture, if you will, because of radio, increasing prosperity, increasing mobility because of the automobile. America really was the first car culture, if you will. So, I mean, of course, not everything was peachy, of course, because, you don't want to be living in Eastern Europe during that time period. But, in the United States, things are pretty good, mostly.
Is that it?
Well, that's about it, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Zacher, what would you want to be doing if you were living in the 1920s?
I know it's probably a really sad answer, but I'd probably still be a teacher.
Okay, that's a good answer.
What do you know about the 1920s? Segregation. Okay, thank you. Okay, what would you be arrested for if you were in the 1920s?
Walking?
Next to Christian Gutierrez. So Christian, what do you think happened in the 1920s?
Happiness, no COVID-19. There was food.
Thank you.
Hi. Hello, Harrison.
Hello.
Okay.
What do you know about the 1920s?
Well, I know they were called the Roaring Twenties. I know that. I know it happened in the 1900s. I know it was like a prosperous time and lots of growth and opportunity.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Happy I could help.
Today I'm here with Addison, our freshman attendant for 2022. So what do you think happened in 1920?
Babe Ruth.
You good? What do you know about the 1920s?
It was called like the Roaring Twenties. I think so. And I'm not very big on history, but it was like before the crash of like the economy. That's basically what I know.
Is that it?
Yeah, basically.
All right, thank you.
All right.
What do you know about the 1920s?
It was a long time ago.
Okay.
All right.
What do you know about the 1920s?
The 1920s, not much. Wasn't that didn't they call it the Roaring 20s?
Yep.
Because the economy boomed, but then the Big Bang hit, or not the Big Bang, the stock market crashed, and everything went bad. But that's really all I know. I mean, nothing much.
Thank
Sure.
you. What do you know about the 1920s?
Wasn't that the era of the flappers?
Yep.
And they had a little bit of prohibition.
Yep.
And fancy cars.
Yep.
Well, early fancy cars. And that's about it.
All right, thank you. Hey, Carl, what do you know about the 1920s?
They had black and white TVs.
Today we're here with Juan Rodriguez. So what do you know about the 1920s?
I know that in the 1920s, it was a time where World War I was a thing. I know that in 1920, Woodrow Wilson was the president of the United States. I know that the stock market had crashed at that time, and that's all I know about the 1920s.
Thank you so much. Have a great Rocket Day.
Thank you.